your project setting, like where it is held, where it is conducted. Okay, what kind of resources you have, the history, how did it start? But of course, you know already, that you studied it. The values and mission. So as a group, as people from SEP, as people, as youth, we have our own missions, our own values, right? So what are your group's missions and values? So that is also an important part of the context. The stakeholders, remember stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders?
The one involved.
Dior?
The one who involved.
The one involved. Just those who are involved? People who will be affected. Okay, so stakeholders include those who are involved, those who are affected, those who benefit from the project. So anyone can be the stakeholders. Doesn't have to be people in the project, among the project team. Okay, so analyzing the context, after you finish that, you start framing the evaluation. Okay, so similar to research, you frame an evaluation by creating evaluation questions. Okay, like what do you want to know? Because you cannot just evaluate, blindly. You need to know what you want to find out, what you want to know. So for you might be interested in how far you have, interested in the extent you achieve your objectives, right? But some might be interested in the impact. You want to know how impactful your project is doing. Okay, so this is how you need to make sure that you have very strong, very clear evaluation question, because you cannot just come up with something that you are interested in, but which in the end does not give you meaningful or useful information. You just do it for, because you're interested in it. All right. So here, this is the rule. You've heard of the SMART test rule, but I'm introducing to you another one called RUMA. So RUMA here include relevant, understandable, measurable, and accomplishable. So relevant meaning the questions needs to be related to the project. Understandable. Some people, they are good at asking questions. Some people, many of us might have very good ways of may have questions in mind. But sometimes when you put it down, people don't understand your question. Like, have you ever had that kind of experience? Like, you have a question you're trying to ask, but people don't understand you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So here, when you write your evaluation question, ask again. If you were someone else, will I understand that question? Okay. You can also bring your question to your team members. What do they think of the question? Of the wording? Is it clear? Is it, do they understand the same way as we do? All right. Measurable. Okay, because we evaluate, we need to be able to measure it. Because some questions might be just big, they sound very nice, sounds very beautiful, but how will we measure? How will we collect the information? Okay, so keep that as part of your planning, okay? Understandable, measurable. And then we know how to measure, but with the resource, with the time we have, is it accomplishable? Okay? Don't just pick something that sounds nice, but then we cannot accomplish. All right? So RUMA, okay? So relevant, understandable, measurable, accomplishable. Very good. All right? Now, here comes to the design and conducting. All right. How many people here have taken research courses? Okay.
Research courses.
Okay. Is there anyone who knows something about research methodology or something like that? Yes? Okay. Seems like most of us are new to research method. All right. But similar to research, evaluations also involve data collection. And to do the data collection, we need to have our own methods, our own instruments, right? So, any ideas how we can collect our data? Questionnaires. Interviews. In-depth interview. Group discussion. Pardon? Experiment. Very good. Observation. All right. So those are the different methods that we can use to collect data. But they can be grouped under two major approaches. Anyone know what they are? Excellent. Qualitative and? Wow, so smart. When I was a PY, I had no clue what those were. Okay. All right, so we've got qualitative approach. So qualitative approach means, what is qualitative approach? Qualitative comes from the word? So quality means? Okay, so we've got qualitative and quantitative, right? So qualitative here refers to data that will provide you like deeper understanding or in-depth understanding about something, okay? So some of the methods that you can use under this approach includes interviews, you sitting down with a person or with, one or more person. Focus group is another form, it's similar to interview. So you have a group of people sitting around a table and you have a set of questions and you try to gain as much information from that group of people. So that's focus group. Observation, you visit the place, you visit the project implementation site. Okay, content analysis of existing documents. So look back at the materials, the records that you have collected, you have accumulated over the period of implementation. Okay, so that's under qualitative. And quantitative, meaning the data can be generalized. Close. Can be quantified, can be counted, right? So that's why we call it quantitative, because it comes from the word quantity. Okay, so quantitative approach. Usually we use surveys, or like Floyd said earlier, something like a test and experiment. Okay, so because these, okay, will allow you to know the percentage, the numbers, and so on. All right. Okay, but one thing I want to remind you is that in an evaluation, you cannot simply depend on one sole method. You cannot focus use just questionnaire or interview alone in order to answer all of your evaluation questions. Okay? So a combination of different methods is recommended. Okay? But one thing you should know is that, are those methods appropriate? Okay? Based on your evaluation question, based on your context, and based on your stakeholders. Okay? Because people might say like, oh, I'm interested in survey. But will it help you get to your goal? Will it help you get the information you want? Okay? So don't just say, I like survey, so I use survey. Okay? Or because survey is easier than the rest. Because we can just implement it once and then that's it. Right? So here, this is an important thing that you should keep in mind. Okay? Choose a method that will get you the answer, that will allow you, based on the context, the time, the money, the resource that you have. Okay? And the evaluation here, similar to the implementation, when you do it, it's important that you keep the conversation going between you who are like responsible for the evaluation and people who are involved like in the project. Okay? So that everyone is aware of the progress of the route we are moving to. All right, so for analysis of the data, under quantitative data, one common way is that sometimes generally people would just use descriptive or inferential statistics. It sounds a bit technical here, but don't be scared, okay? Because under descriptive especially, people can use something like frequency. So frequencies meaning you do the counting of the number of occurrence. Okay, or the percentage that people agree or disagree with something. So this one, descriptive, also includes something like means, median. Okay, so these are normally more used in test or survey. And then qualitative data, meaning based on the answers you get from the interview. Okay, you look for pattern and theme that about. Okay. All right, I'm running out of time. Okay. Now moving on to the report. After you collect the data, it's time that you create a report. Okay. So evaluation report can come in different formats. It can be both written, it can be both oral, it can be both a report itself, it can be both an email, it can be both an announcement. So it depends on how formal or informal your group member expect. All right? But factors that you need to consider when you do the report is that you need to make sure that the level of accuracy and balance is there. The timing too. Report should not just start after you complete the data collection. You should start thinking about it, from the point when you collect the data and keep moving along. And communication style. What would be the best way to present the information to your group? Because sometimes some people might understand better with a lot of visuals, while other group might want a lot of details. So what kind of communication style fit with it? And then involve the audience, meaning involve people who will use the report, okay? Keep them in the dialogue. And this is just a sample of a common outline that we use in evaluation report. So usually an evaluation report would include an executive summary, meaning a brief summary at the beginning of what you will talk about in the report, introduction to the project, description of the evaluation, your evaluation questions, methodology, your findings, and then your conclusion and recommendations. Okay? This is not the perfect format. Okay? It depends on you. It's up to you to make changes to this, but this is just something that is commonly used. Alright? But before we wrap this up, can we recall the steps in evaluation? Where should we start? How many steps do we have?
4.
4. First one is?
Analyze the context.
Analyzing the context.
Framing the evaluation. Designing and conducting the evaluation.
Designing and conducting the evaluation. And finally?
Reporting the evaluation.
Thank you. Very good. Any questions? Any questions?